Good afternoon. I'm Matt Smith. I'm president of the Greater Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. Today is a continuation of the Allegheny Conference on Community Development's webinar series, Response and Recovery. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had webinars from experts discussing legal changes based on the new Federal CARES Act, its impact on unemployment and family medical leave and paid sick leave, as well as a two-part series specifically geared towards small businesses and how Phase 3, the CARES Act, provides valuable resources to help those small businesses survive this difficult period. Recordings from all of those webinars will be available on our website, as will this one, at www.alleghenyconference.org/COVID-19. Today, we're joined by Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro, who is going to discuss his new initiative, the PA Care Package, as well as other initiatives that he is working on to protect consumers and businesses during this difficult time, including his fight against price gouging. As many of you know, throughout our history, the Allegheny Conference has been a regional convener and trusted source for critical and practical information. On behalf of the Allegheny Conference and affiliated organizations, the Greater Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce and the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, as well as the Pennsylvania Economy League of Greater Pittsburgh, we're very appreciative to today's sponsors, Peoples, Giant Eagle, Highmark, and UPMC Health Plan for their generous support, which allows us to bring you this conversation. Our role during this conference is much the same as it's always been. We intend to use all of our platforms, web, social media, email, to provide you resources that will help you move forward unified and together and together as a region forward in one unified manner. As I said, today we're very happy to bring you the Commonwealth's Attorney General, Josh Shapiro. I've worked with Josh over the last many years, but specifically over the last couple of weeks as this emergency has reached the point where we are right now. And so I'm going to turn it over to the Attorney General right now. He is going to walk through, as I said, a few of the initiatives that he's working on, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So Attorney General Shapiro, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Well, Matt, thank you very, very much. And if you could just give me a high sign that you can hear me, I want to make sure we're able to be heard. We good?
Yep.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, I hope you and your family are well. I hope that everyone on this call is well. And I just want folks to know that I am fully confident that we are going to beat this. But I also know that while we work to beat this, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, Matt.
I should add,
when I hit unlink, nothing happens.
Participants on the webinar go to mute. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I was just saying I'm fully confident we're going to beat this, but as we're working to beat it, y'all need to take care of yourselves and take care of your loved ones and the people who depend on you, and know that we in the Office of Attorney General are doing everything in our power to take care of the people who are in need, both those suffering because of the public health crisis and those suffering because of the economic crisis. You know, we have seen in just the last couple of weeks 1.1 million of our fellow Pennsylvanians out of work. That's about 1/6 of our entire workforce here in the Commonwealth. We have seen businesses shutter and many of them not sure if they can reopen. We've seen a lot of challenges for companies, big and small. And we in the Office of Attorney General are trying to do everything we can to help people during these challenging times. One of the things y'all know I care a lot about, and we spend a lot of time doing, is engaging in public-private partnerships. And so I want to, first of all, thank your sponsors here because they understand the power of public-private partnerships, you know, Peoples and Highmark and UPMC, who are doing incredible work on the healthcare front, and Giant Eagle, who has stepped up and demonstrated a serious commitment to their workforce. I mean, these frontline heroes in grocery stores are really just incredible people, and Giant Eagle's done really meaningful things to stand by their workers during this challenging time. So thank you to them. But I want to talk about a different public-private partnership, and that is, you know, facing the challenges that we're facing today with so many people out of work. There's a lot of people that can't afford to pay their mortgage. or pay their car loan. Folks who were going to fall behind very, very quickly, who were living paycheck to paycheck. And about a week and a half ago, we had this idea that if we partnered with our banks in Pennsylvania to help ease some of the burden on those folks right now, that could make a huge difference in dealing with this crisis. And my first call was to Bill Demchek and Greg Jordan over at PNC, obviously a tremendously important business in our region here in Western Pennsylvania, but also Pennsylvania's largest bank. And they do really important and meaningful work. And I said to Bill and Greg, look, join me in this effort to better protect consumers. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to give people a 90-day reprieve on paying their mortgage and a 90-day reprieve on paying a consumer loan or auto loan, a commitment for at least 2 months not to foreclose on a house or repossess an auto, making sure that those annoying fees like late fees and insufficient fund fees and things like that aren't levied during this time, and to make sure that all of this isn't going to be reported to the credit reporting agencies in a way that is going to negatively impact your credit in the future and make it harder for you to climb out of the hole that you find yourselves in. Here's the thing, like they've done on so many other things, PNC stepped up in a really big way. Bill and Greg said yes. It didn't take a lot of arm twisting, I have to tell you. And Lou and the others who lead the company really said, we want to be first and we want to set the standard. And it's great that they did, because since they've set that standard and joined onto what we're calling the PA Care Package, about 10 other banks have as well. And there'll be more in the coming days who are in the process of signing up. And we've seen big banks like PNC and Citizens and Fulton step up. We've also seen important regional banks like First Commonwealth and Dollar and Ocean First and others. This is giving people a lifeline. It's giving people the ability to have a pause in making these payments that they can't pay right now and not worried about losing the roof over their head, and instead being able to focus on putting groceries on the table for them and their families and being able to take care of themselves from a physical health perspective. This is really important stuff, and I want to salute PNC for stepping up. It's a great example of public-private partnerships. The Office of Attorney General is doing a lot of other work to protect consumers. We've put landlords on notice that they can't evict people during the governor's declaration and asked them to extend that into the summer. And the Pennsylvania Apartment Association has agreed to hold off on evictions until at least July 15th. We set up a special hotline to deal with price gouging, because we are not going to let any business online or in our community take advantage of Pennsylvania consumers during this challenging time. And we're not going to let them price gouge them. We've received 3,753 price gouging tips, and we have followed up on each and every one of them. And so I want you to know that we're looking out for that. If you think you see price gouging, let us know by emailing us at pricegouging@attorneygeneral.gov. Important for this group, I want you to know, the price gouging we recognize can happen at the retail level, but it can also happen at the wholesaler or distributor level. And so if you're a business and you feel like you're being price gouged by a wholesaler or distributor, let us know that as well, and we can hold them accountable. Similarly, I've received some outreach from food service workers and those who provide wholesalers and distributors of food, to let me know that while something might look like it's price gouging, that we have to better understand the supply chain and the costs of things. And that's been really informative to our group as we go about doing this work. So if there's things we need to know, make sure you're informing us. You can let Matt know, you can raise it on this call, and I know he will share it with me. Finally, I want to just alert you to some of the scams that we're seeing and the ways in which we're combating it. In fact, Matt, one of Matt's employees raised with us a scam that they were seeing in the healthcare side, but we're seeing a good number of scams when it comes to those stimulus checks that people are expecting. And I want people to know that, as the IRS has said, you are not going to need to do anything to get your check. If the IRS has your bank account information in their system, they're going to direct deposit to you. So watch out for those scams. Watch out for the scams when it comes to applying for unemployment compensation. The only place people should go to file for unemployment is uc.pa.gov. Any of these other sites or any of these other parties reaching out to you are trying to scam you. So please stick with the one government portal that you ought to be using. And then finally, we're seeing this unfortunately touch a lot of seniors. There's no magical cure for COVID-19. There's no miracle medicine, yet there's too many people online pushing a lot of that nonsense. And I want folks not to fall for that, not to spend money on that, not to give over personal financial information to get that, because it's not real, it's a scam. And so I hope you'll share that information to best combat scams and deal with all of these consumer issues, particularly on the cyber realm. I've partnered with United States Attorney Scott Brady from the Western District, where we've been able to join together our forces, law enforcement on the state side as well as the federal side, to be able to best combat these scams and other things we're seeing during the COVID-19 crisis. So it's working really well. And it's actually been a model for other attorneys general and United States attorneys across the country. So I'm really proud of that. Matt, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I want you to know that I appreciate everybody's time. I'm looking forward to your questions. And again, we are going to beat this. I'm confident of that. For those of you who are getting ready to celebrate Passover, like me and my family tonight, I realize it'll probably be a virtual Passover for many of you. I wish you a very blessed and meaningful holiday. And for those of you who will celebrate Easter on Sunday, the same to you. Make it a blessed and meaningful Easter. This is a moment in time where we may not be able to embrace our family or be close to our extended family, but it is a time where family matters a lot, faith matters a lot. And I just hope that you're able to find some peace and some blessing during these challenging times. And with that, Matt, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Josh. And as you noted, the B2B part of the price gouging issue sometimes gets lost a little bit in the shuffle, but it is out there. There have been cases that I've brought to your attention, and you and your team have just done an outstanding job of addressing those issues. And that's something that I'm glad that you made that point, and I just want to underline that point for our audience, that this can happen in many different contexts, one of which is in the B2B context, and we want consumers and businesses, particularly those small businesses out there, to be aware of that particular issue. And so
sure.
I'm going to move over to our questions, but if you do have a question, please submit it. We will pass it along. I will pass it along to the Attorney General, and I'm going to kick it off with our first question from Joe. What role or initiatives does your office have in addressing any public corruption that may arise from the COVID-19 pandemic? For instance, are there any concerns about bribes and kickbacks for emergency sole source contracts, no-show, no-work government employees, time card fraud, and/or opaque agency meetings and spending?
Well, let me, Joe, answer your question generally. I'm not going to get into any specifics. I can tell you that public corruption is an important part of what we do. We've made nearly 70 public corruption arrests in my time in office, and we will not allow corrupt public officials to take advantage of anyone during this crisis. Similarly, we're on the lookout for fraud, and we're on the lookout for tax dollars going where they're not supposed to be going. Look, when you have this much money flowing through the system, with a lack of transparency, because a lot of meetings are not happening in a public way, where people aren't necessarily as focused on their government operations. Maybe right now they're focused obviously on their personal health and other things. They need to know that we are still watching in the Office of Attorney General. Our public corruption unit is still very busy, and we're going to work, not only us, but work with our local, state, and federal partners to combat public corruption wherever we find it.
Thank you. Our next one is from Kevin. What role have you taken on with other states' attorney generals in fighting this battle, and where do you see the collaboration? You mentioned your collaboration, I'll just add on, with U.S. Attorney Scott Brady at the federal level.
Right.
Where are you joining forces with other state AGs to make sure that what happens within Pennsylvania is also is protected in Ohio and Maryland, New York, is across the state boundaries?
Well, Matt, let me give you one specific example. So when it comes to price gouging, and again, as I said, we're approaching nearly 4,000 tips on price gouging. Obviously, they're not all coming from the local mom and pop shop or even a big box retailer in your community. A lot of them are coming online. And we got very, very frustrated about Amazon and some of the other online marketplaces not doing enough to combat price gouging. And it was my assertion that, they were basically playing whack-a-mole, right? They would get a complaint about this product and they would go over there and they would shut that down, or that product and go over there and shut that down. Well, they've got too many products online to be able to play whack-a-mole. And furthermore, they've got a hell of a lot of data and metrics on pricing that they could use in a proactive way to stop price gouging from happening in the first place, so that it doesn't need to come to a consumer complaint or a complaint from the Attorney General's office. So we challenged all of the major online marketplaces, Facebook and Craigslist and eBay and Amazon, to do more with the technology and data that they have. Here's the good news. We organized a coalition of 33 attorneys general from around the country, Republicans and Democrats, and we were able to get Amazon and these other online marketplaces to take concrete steps to combat price gouging on their platforms. They're doing a lot of what we asked for. So I'm grateful to them. And it's an example, again, of the power of public-private partnerships and the initiative we showed here in Pennsylvania together with other attorneys general across the country.
Just to follow up on one aspect of the PA care package, how do financial institutions get in touch with you to support that package? I'm assuming it's on your website. I know we have it on our website. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The easiest thing is go on our website, attorneygeneral.gov, and you can see the information. There's also a way for you to contact us there. A lot of CEOs of banks across the Commonwealth have contacted me directly. I encourage them to do that. Nick Smith from my office, who is on this call and on this Zoom here, is going to be able to stick around, and he can certainly work with anyone who's interested in joining forces with us. Nick's been a great leader on maintaining some integrity in the financial services industry and protecting consumers in that process. So we can be reached in a lot of different ways on this, and we look forward to working with any bank who wants to work with us, big or small.
Thank you. Next question, and I think there might be a slice of this that touches the work that you're doing in your office, Josh, but the question is from Mary Ellen. Are there any initiatives for municipalities who will also be facing economic hardship with the loss of taxes, wage, regional asset district property tax loss? I worry how we can continue to provide vital services like public safety. We are so happy for the programs for our small businesses and those out of work, but can you address any funding that might be available on the public safety side? Yeah. What's your office role within that context?
It's a great question. I think you said her name was Mary Ellen. It's a great question, Mary Ellen. And we do have to worry about our municipal officials, right? Particularly law enforcement, fire, EMS, and others. And there's going to be a real burden on local governments. There's going to be a real burden on state government to climb out of this financial hole that we find ourselves in. The CARES Act, the federal stimulus bill, does provide some money for states and municipalities. My sense, and this is not a shot at anyone, I think it's just the reality. My sense is that it probably won't be enough, that there's going to need to be more stimulus for local governments in order to protect police and make sure that they have what they need and our first responders have what they need. So we are working on, constantly with our law enforcement partners to make sure that they have PPE. I was just able to get 5,000 masks, for example, today to Philadelphia police, along with some other work we had already done for other police departments around the state. So there's a lot that needs to be done during this crisis to make sure they have what they need, but then there's going to have to be real funding coming from Washington to help these municipal governments get back up on their feet until the property taxes and other things catch up.
Thank you. And, within that context, are there, a few public safety related issues that you're working on that, we're in the emergency phase right now. We're dealing with, much of it encompassing public health and moving into eventually a new phase of economic recovery.
Right.
Where do you see the nexus with your office and your work once that next phase begins of, this turning the economy back on, so to speak, which at some point will come? What are the issues that you're going to be focused on? Where are you worried? And what do folks who might be operating a small business or individuals, what should they be, focused on and training their attention on at that time?
Well, look, when the governor gives the order to, turn things back on, I think we have to be realistic about the fact that not everybody's going to turn back on. And there are going to be a lot of companies out there that are able to turn back on, but their workforce may look different and may look slimmer. I think the real estate market is taking a huge hit, commercial real estate market, and they're going to have to, deal with the after effects of that. And some of that will hopefully be eased up by more federal dollars coming. But in the absence of that, these are going to be really challenging times when the governor says turn it back on. From a law enforcement perspective, obviously we're going to be focused on fraud and abuse within the system. But there are broader issues here. I mean, we are going to have more people in poverty. We're going to have more people out of work. We are going to have more people struggling. We're going to have students who have been out of school maybe for the entire duration of this second semester. All of those things lead to higher crime. And just because it is not on the sort of front pages of the paper, or the beginning of the nightly news right now, doesn't mean that crime is gone or is dissipated. So I think those are all issues that we in law enforcement are going to have to be grappling with, both in the remaining days of this crisis, or remaining weeks, I should say, really, in this crisis, and then once the governor issues that order to turn things back on.
Josh, I know we're bumping up against our time with you, so I want to be respectful of that. But are there any other issues that you would like to raise with folks out there? We will continue to have the conversation with you in your office. As I said, you have been a wonderful asset for the business community and moving through this process and helping address issues that businesses have brought to our attention that we passed on to you. What are the last final messages that you want to convey to folks as we move through this pandemic?
Well, look, I mean, as you saw in the example with PNC, I really believe that the private sector has an incredibly important role to play in combating this crisis. And so I would ask all of you on this webinar today, and those who will watch it later, to think about what your companies can do to help us get through this crisis. And if there is something you're able to do, a product you're able to manufacture that will help us during this time of need, a service that you're able to provide, volunteer hours, whatever it is, let us know, and we will put you to work, and we'll use your expertise, we'll use your know-how, we'll use your willingness to help to make a difference for the people, not just in Western Pennsylvania, but across the entire Commonwealth. So I want to thank you for paying attention here today. I want to thank you for what I know you will be doing over the course of the next many weeks. I want to wish you the best dealing with these challenging economic times, and know that I and my colleagues in the Office of Attorney General will be here to work with you every step of the way. And Matt, thank you for having me on, and to everyone, I wish you a happy and blessed Passover and Easter holiday.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Same to you and your family, and want to thank everyone for joining us here today. As Josh said, you can go to his website for information and resources and submission of comments and complaints. You can also go to our website. I just want to make sure I repeat that particular information. It is AlleghenyConference.org/COVID-19. And we update that website on a daily basis with critical information, as well as links and resources that you can use, practical links and resources that you can use for your business operations, for your individual concern, for your family's concern. So go on that website frequently, as we do update it regularly throughout the day. I want to finally just thank our sponsors again. As Josh said, our ability to work across the public and private sector is critical to our operation and our ability to impact Western Pennsylvania. And we want to thank Peoples, Giant Eagle, Highmark, and UPMC Health Plan for their generous support, which again allows us to put on webinars like this, bring key stakeholders like the Attorney General to all of you. And please look for additional webinars into the future. We've got a few next week that we will be sending out information around. We want to make sure that, again, you have the most practical, timely, and useful information as possible for all of you to get through this crisis. We will get through this crisis as a region like we always do, together and unified, and we'll come out of this crisis stronger and better. And so I want to make sure I pass that along, and thank you all. Be safe and be well. And we'll look forward to bringing you another webinar in the very near future. Thank you.